Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers and to our review of the new Apple Airpods Pro 3. There have been some really significant upgrades to Apple's flagship in-ear buds, including a tweaked design aiming to improve the fit. There's boosted active noise cancellation powers, better durability, new heart rate tracking skills, and some live translation depending on where you are in the world. So does Apple now have the best running headphones in the business? Let's get into it in our multi-tester review. Now, before we get into the run test, here are the headlines of what you get from the Apple AirPods 3 and what is new here. We're going to start with the biggest news for runners, which is the addition of a new built-in heart rate sensor that tracks during your runs. It can work with or without an Apple Watch. When you wear it with an Apple Watch, it will cover up any rogue reads in the wrist sensor data. So it should, in theory, lead to more accurate heart rate tracking if you're using them combined. If you're an Apple Fitness Plus user, you can also get heart rate and other workout stats from the headphones up on screen. Calories burned, current heart rate, those kind of things are covered. Then there are some changes to the design helping to improve the fit and the comfort. The shape of the earbuds has been tweaked, changing very slightly the way that you put them in your ears and making them more comfortable than their predecessors for extended listening sessions. Apple says the active noise cancellation is also 4 times more effective than the AirPods Pro 2. You get an extra ear tip size, is now a total of 5 with a new extra small, which goes right up to large. The tips are now foam infused, partly for that better comfort that we've been talking about, but also helping with the acoustic sealing. When it comes to battery life, on paper, there's 2 more hours active noise cancellation runtime than you got from the AirPods Pro 2. And I'm going to stick the other key runtime stats on screen now. That includes up to 8 hours active noise cancellation, spatial audio up to 7.5 hours, heart rate tracking up to 6.5 hours, transparency mode up to 10 hours. Some of those will depend on which combinations you're using of those things. The Case Plus Buds active noise cancellation runtime is now 24 hours in total. The charging case here looks almost identical. The IP durability rating is improved on the Buds and on the case. On the Buds, up from IP54 to IP57, so that covers sweat, dust and water resistance. That should mean more rain and sweat protection for the Buds and the case as well. On price, the AirPods Pro 3 costs £219 in the UK or $249 in the US. That's £30 cheaper in the UK than when the AirPods Pro 2 launched, but that's still a chunk pricier than the AirPods Pro, which currently cost £169. So in testing, I've been running with the Apple AirPods Pro 3 for about 3 weeks. I have used them with and without the Apple Watch Ultra 3 and the Series 11. I've taken them into my noisy gym for treadmill runs. I've had them out on the busy rush hour streets of London. And I used them for my Chester Marathon, which was a just sub 3 yomp, which was a really good test for that kind of long haul comfort, which is something that Apple says it has improved. I've also been using them day to day in cafes, commuting on the underground, and all of that good stuff outside of running. So let's start with the design then, and these are light and pretty compact. The case is very run belt friendly. I like the fact it has a little place here for running a cord through, so you can attach them to a key hook to keep them safe and secure. The shiny white coating of the case does mark easily though, so if you have anything else in your pockets with them, they can get marked up, so it's better not to. But it's also good that the case now has a weatherproof rating as well. I think the changes to the Buds have really improved the fit. I always felt like the old AirPods 2 might fall out. They never did, but I was always kind of aware of it, and I was worried about sort of taking them into race conditions because of that. So I rarely chose them as my race headphone, when you're in a stampede and you're not going to reach for something on the floor. But for me, at least, these new AirPods 3 lock seriously tight, and at 5.5 grams, I can pop them in and forget about them. The ear tip seal is brilliant. It's really good at isolating outside sound, even before you fire up the active noise cancellation. During the Chester Marathon, I ran really freely without having to worry about the Buds at all. I just had 2 hours and 52 and 36 seconds of good tunes to help me hit a new PB. The active noise cancellation is excellent. It does a really good job of silencing the world around. On the roads, working in the cafes, and dulling, softening, removing the gym noise, which can be a pain if you're on the treadmills. The top volume is plenty punchy. It's plenty loud to kick my backside into gear. And for my non-audiophile ears, I think it's got enough bass and enough richness to soundtrack my runs perfectly well. I ran Chester in some seriously windy conditions as well, and the AirPods Pro 3 were excellent at keeping that out. I found call audio quality was great, inbound and outbound. Then there's Apple's conversational awareness, which lowers the volume of your tunes when you start speaking. So like if you think about sort of going into a shop mid-run and you don't want to take the buds out or stop the music, or if someone comes up to you on the treadmill, wants to have a chat mid-run, once you start speaking, it will drop off. But if, like me, you ever sometimes I just sing a little bit out loud to myself when I'm running. I just something I do like a crazy. It drops the volume and then you have to wait for it to come back again. So it's just then you singing, which is, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear the music. So yeah, that's one downside of that. On the controls, I personally don't find all of the controls that easy to use on the move. Pause, play, next track, those kind of simple squeezes are fine. I just find the slide to change the volume a bit more fiddly when I'm running, because you're sort of tugging on the stem of the pod. But if, like me, you tend to whack the headphones in at one volume and run, it's really easy enough to do the controls in all the other situations. When you're sat still, it's not a problem at all. Onto battery life, and here are some of my findings. A 1 hour run using heart rate and active noise cancellation burned 9%. My almost 3 hour marathon with active noise cancellation on using heart rate volume up pretty loud burned 45%. So I'd say that the 8 hours runtime with active noise cancellation that's listed is pretty accurate. And if you toggle off the heart rate, or you're more sensible than I am with the volume and don't use the active noise cancellation, you can definitely eke out more. Crucially, with the case, these would also be ultra run friendly. Then on to the big news, and that is the heart rate. And when it comes to heart rate performance, my experience, I have to say, wasn't brilliant. It was a bit hit and miss. I did a series of runs with the AirPods Pro 3 up against the Garmin HRM 600 chest strap and some other optical sensors on watches. And you can see here that the AirPods struggle at the start, but then settle. And then once it's settled, it's a pretty solid match for the chest strap. That's as good as I've seen from an in-ear heart rate sensor perform like ever. And it's a world ahead of the Powerbeats 2 Pro and the Sennheisers that we got a while back. And here's another run where it struggled at the start and bits mid-run, but at times it was really well on point with the chest strap. Then there were moments where what I got from the in-ear heart rate was a bit wild. Here's another treadmill run where I have no idea what happens to the AirPods, but they're all over the shop. Maybe I've not got them positioned right. It's something to do with when I maybe had stops or pauses. But for sections of this, they went a bit bonkers. And there's no mid-run alert to flag that you might need to adjust. So basically, if I want fidelity in my tracking, I'm still reaching for a chest strap. But I can see how this added capability might be a nice extra for people who already train with AirPods, or who aren't that bothered about sort of 100% fidelity in their data. Though it would have been excellent had they also supported heart rate broadcasting. The Powerbeats Pro did, and that seems like a miss here, because you could actually use them alongside other gym equipment and whatnot. It would be a little bit better. Now, the AirPods Pro 3 will also track distance for treadmill runs, and while they came up short versus the treadmill distance in my test, they weren't much off the calibrated Sunto Race 2, though again, I think it would be really great if you could calibrate the AirPods.
So it comes to the fit of the AirPods Pro 3. I always struggled with the first two generations of the headphones in that they would squirm loose out of my ears on the run. I could fix it with third-party ear tips or even using third-party wings, but I did hope the redesign of the AirPods Pro 3 would mean that they didn't move around my ear on the run, but unfortunately they still do. They still do squirm loose eventually for me on the run. Just in-ear buds just don't seem to sit properly in my ear canal, and I've had this problem with, I've tried loads of different tips on the AirPods Pro 3. The fit's never that bad, like they can kind of stay in or sit just gently inside my ear without necessarily blocking the ear canal, but yeah, they don't stay there reliably. I have to adjust them, or I wear a headband over them, or I use, like I say, third-party ear tips. So fit's not quite right for me, but this does seem to be something that's quite individual, and it will work for you or it won't. But yeah, the fit hasn't quite worked for me. The design is otherwise very nice, though. They are very comfortable headphones to wear outside of running for sure. They don't put too much pressure on the inside of the ear or anything like that. The controls are pretty easy to use, given that in between a button and a touch panel, like they are usable on the run. They're a bit better than just full touch panels, I'd say. The volume control might be a bit tricky with gloves, but for the most part, you can control the headphones quite easily on the run. And for me, the heart rate tracking has been really good, actually. It's been pretty much impeccable throughout my testing. Even when the buds have shaken loose and they're just sitting on the outside of my ear, the actual heart rate tracking is still very accurate for me and much better than anything I've ever seen on headphones with heart rate monitors before. I've never found headphones that do this well, frankly. The Beats were a bit of a nightmare, the Powerbeats Pro 2, both in terms of how fiddly it was to use and the actual accuracy. The Sennheiser ones I've tried didn't work that well either. So yeah, this is a first for me. Headphones that do seem pretty accurate on heart rate, even when I did a really testing interval session, running a 24 reps of 60 seconds on, 30 seconds float. Like the rises and falls were in line with chest strap readings, and on easy runs, the reading has always been pretty much correct as well. Might stray a few beats here and there, but in the right zone. And when they're linked to an Apple Watch, I think it's definitely improving the heart rate accuracy of the Apple Watch to be able to use the readings from the AirPods Pro 3, and that's probably the main use for them. They don't seem to be usable by anything else yet. I haven't been able to connect it to other apps, can't connect them to other watches, so it's kind of an additional feature that would improve the experience. I think if you're using them standalone and you're not using any kind of watch and just recording your workouts within the fitness app, or if you're using an Apple Watch and upgrading the heart rate accuracy on that a little bit by having the AirPods Pro 3 as an additional source is no bad thing. But yeah, it'd be nice if it was opened up so you could use them with other watches and that kind of thing, because the heart rate tracking has been very good for me. Sound quality is certainly very good as well. I think it's really rich, deep sound. You can really pick out all the instruments. It's very clear. There's a good range to it. I don't get any kind of distortion. The bass is pretty powerful. It's really good sound all around. You can't really fiddle with it too much. Apple doesn't let you do that too much, but I haven't felt that I've needed to. I've really enjoyed the sound quality both on the run and outside of my training, just listening to the headphones at all times. And the ANC is really good as well. It's a step up on what we've seen from the AirPods Pro 2, I would say. Like when you're traveling, it really does filter out everything really, really well. And, I think it's as good as anything I've experienced on an earbud, up there with the Bose QC Ultra earbuds. So you're getting really good sound in ANC here for sure. And then the transparency mode is pretty good on the run. Like both the ANC and the transparency can sound a little bit windy on the run for sure, but I think it's better with the AirPods Pro 3 than lots of in-ear headphones. This is a problem I have with lots of headphones. When you're using these settings that use the external mics in some way to filter out sound or bring in sound, they can be quite windy. And with the transparency mode on the AirPods Pro 3, you do get really good levels of detail on the sound around you, so it does feel quite safe on the run, and you do get a little bit of wind, but not so much that it ruins your listening experience. Battery life, pretty good on the buds as well. With ANC, for quite small buds, to get 7-8 hours out of them, I think is pretty impressive. I've been seeing, the drain on battery be in line with Apple estimates during my testing. The case doesn't add quite as much as some cases, but again, it's still a pretty good amount. I think it's still going to see you through most situations before you need to charge it again. You've got wireless charging there as well, and it's not the largest case, so it's pretty pocketable all round. So yeah, battery life is, I wouldn't say a huge strength to them, but it's also not really a weakness either.
So into that run test, and I'll start with design and fit, which I think is going to be a contentious area with the AirPods Pro 3. Now, if you put the Pro 3 next to the Pro 2, they look very similar. There definitely are some differences. I think the most noticeable one straight away is that the charging case is just slightly bigger. It's still pretty pocket friendly. You can chuck it into a running bell, and from that point of view, it's still going to be a very easy one to carry around. You've still got those very good kind of stem controls, which I think work very well for running. It's a very good example of kind of adding those physical controls in a very elegant and discreet manner. So that's definitely a plus here. One thing you won't see, which definitely is an improvement, is the upgrade in terms of durability. So they're more sweat, kind of dust and kind of water resistant. So mainly about, getting caught out, kind of running in the rain. So that's definitely positives. I think it's when you look up from those stems and that housing, which has slightly changed, I think, to house and account for those additional heart rate sensors. Now, what I think that has done is made the AirPods Pro 3 maybe not sit as flush inside of your ears to make sure those sensors are in the correct place. Now, they haven't fallen out in my runs, but there has been one run where I've had to kind of prod them back in and, just to get that kind of good feel. And I don't know if that's just really with the design, as I said, trying to make sure those heart rate sensors sit in the kind of appropriate place to get that good kind of tracking. Now, I've had a very good experience with the AirPods Pro, Pro 2 in terms of that fit. I don't get on with the AirPods in terms of that fit. So it might be a case if you get on with the Pro design, generally you'll get a good experience, but it definitely is slightly different from the feel of wearing the Pro 2, which I think do just sit a little bit more tightly and flush in your ear. In terms of sound quality, I've been very happy what I've seen with the Pro 3. It is very balanced. I think it's very versatile. I think if you want something that's bass heavy, you can get that. If you want something that's a little bit more clearer, if you prefer listen to audiobooks, podcasts, you want to use it to take calls, I think this is, some of the best experience that you'll get from a pair of truly wireless earbuds. So from that point of view, I've been very happy. I think when there's been a step up is the active noise cancellation. Now, I love active noise cancellation. I like blocking out the world when I go out running, and it was good on the Pro 2. It is even better in the Pro 3. Now, I've used it for indoor runs, I've used it for outdoor runs, and it's so effective in blocking out that noise. It's some of the best kind of ANC that I've seen on a pair of earbuds. I think it's up there with Bose and Sony from that point of view. And then we get into battery life, and battery life has been very good. I think it was good on the Pro 2. The numbers have gone up. You know, I've used it with the active noise cancellation, the transparency mode, and the drop-off hasn't been anything to kind of be concerned about. And then you've got that kind of fast charge capability, which means you can top up and get a very good, you know, performance over a week of running and not using it for kind of running as well and everything else. And then we get into the heart rate tracking, which is we saw it with the Beats Powerbeats Pro 2. We've seen it with other brands as well, Jabra, Sennheiser, Bose. And it's been, well, you know, my experience has been very mixed across the board, and the Beats Powerbeats Pro 2 didn't really convince me that, you know, we'd got any closer to getting good heart rate tracking, particularly across intensities. The Apple AirPods Pro 3, it's been a very different experience for me. I think it's been by far the best heart rate tracking I've seen from the, from earbuds that I've tested across the board. I think, you know, for all my kind of running paces, high intensity stuff as well, it's been very, very good. And I've been using it against the heart rate monitor chest strap for all of my runs, and the data has looked very, very good. So I have to say I was surprised by the performance. Now, one thing I will add is that with that heart rate tracking, right now you can only use it with Apple's app. So that's the fitness app, and you have to kind of start a workout in the app. You can use it for Fitness Plus as well, like you would with the Apple Watch. And if you use it with the Apple Watch, you're kind of almost kind of fusing the sensor data from the earbuds as well as the Apple Watch. But you can, you know, a lot of the time I have been, or most of the time actually, I've been using just the AirPods to kind of test the heart rate data without the Apple Watch, and the data has looked very good for me overall. So I've had a very good experience with the AirPods Pro 3. I think it still offers a lot of the similar qualities from the Pro 2. The heart rate tracking has been good, the battery life has been good, sound quality and the active noise cancellation particularly has been very, very standout. And the fit has worked overall in my time, which for some others, possibly they might not have the same experience. I think that's probably what Nick and Kieran are going to tell you in this video.
Verdict then, and I think these are definitely the best Apple AirPods I've ever run with. I think the biggest tick in the box is how good the fit was for me. That has taken the AirPods Pro from something that I might use in a more controlled environment on the treadmill, where if something falls out, I can grab it. You know, if you drop a bud, they're easy enough to get, to a headphone that I could happily use for race day. These aren't going to drop out in the start line of a stampede, at least for me. I kind of saw the AirPods Pro as good for daily use before that and the occasional run, but now I think they come close to nailing it as a brilliant all-rounder. As good on the commute or conference calls as they are out there logging the miles. I was hugely sceptical about the built-in heart rate sensor, having seen so many people fail with this to get even near a usable product as recently as Beats. Didn't think that Apple would be able to pull it off. But Apple seemed to have moved us to a world where ear-based heart rate tracking can actually work with a reasonable degree of accuracy. Not all the time, but most of the time. There is still a bit of a question in my head whether people really need it when most have a kind of similarly accurate heart rate sensor strapped to their wrist. But still, it does feel like a step on for this particular kind of form factor. The battery life isn't the best in this space, but it's competitive, and the extra durability of the buds and the case is welcome. Now, I wouldn't buy them for the heart rate, but it is a nice to have. If you're just looking for headphones to soundtrack your runs, there are cheaper alternatives. But I think if you want the best all-round package of sound, staying power, features that can cover all day and fitness and running use, I think the AirPods Pro 3 are now pretty hard to beat. And I would say that £219 price tag, although it is right up there, I think it's starting to look like good value for money.
So my running take on the Apple AirPods Pro 3, and my experience overall has been very good. I found the fit in general to be solid. I think the sound quality is very, very good. Again, the active noise cancellation is a step up from the Pro 2, and the battery life has been very good. I've been very happy on that front as well. Then you add in the heart rate tracking, which I have found surprisingly has been very, very good. I think these are the best example of heart rate tracking earbuds that I've seen. You know, I've tested Jabra's, Sennheiser's, Bose's take on this, also Amazfit, and this is the best I've seen in terms of that performance. Now, I'll caveat all of those things with the fact that I think, first of all, the fit is different from the Pro 2, and I think that's definitely something to keep in mind. Obviously, that is there to account for those additional sensors, and the fit may not work for everyone, and you might need to play around to get that kind of optimal, kind of locked-in feel. I think the other thing, more importantly, is you really need to be locked into the Apple ecosystem right now to get the best experience. It only works right now with Apple's native kind of fitness apps. You know, the API to open it up to third-party kind of fitness apps is there, but as I can see, there aren't any apps that support that kind of heart rate tracking right now. I've even asked Strava if they're going to support it, and I haven't heard back from them yet. And also just the idea that you can pair these heart rate monitor to a kind of, you know, a running watch, to you know, connected treadmill. Those are things you can't do. Now you could do that with the Beats Powerbeats Pro 2, which does have a more reliable fit. I think the sound is very good, battery life is good there as well. The heart rate tracking wasn't as impressive, and I know that Beats has kind of added some updates more recently with the arrival of the AirPods Pro 3, but I think in general, in terms of that tracking experience, I think the Pro 3 is a step up on that front. So you are going to get a more reliable fit and experience overall. I think as a runner from the Beats Powerbeats Pro 2, you would have to spend more money on them, but I think if you can get the AirPods Pro 3 to work, you can wait for that kind of opening up the support for third-party fitness apps. Then you'll probably get more value out of that heart rate tracking. As I said, I've had a good experience. I see them as a nice upgrade on the Pro 2. But as I said, you really do need to be locked in to the Apple ecosystem right now to get the best out of that kind of, you know, overall daily kind of usage of it outside of running, but also getting the most out of that heart rate tracking as well.
So my verdict on the Apple AirPods Pro 3 for running, if the fit was better for me on the run, these would be the headphones I'd use all the time, I'd say, because they're really good for general use, they're comfortable, they sound great, the ANC is good, and on the run you get a really good transparency mode, pretty solid battery life, and yeah, like I say, the fit isn't quite there for me. You know, I will probably use third-party wings occasionally to use them on the run, and those don't happen to block the heart rate monitor. The ones I've got there from the AirPods Pro 2, you know, these kind of cheap silicone wings you can pick up on Amazon. They do make the fit better. They just don't fit in the case, so it's not quite as convenient. But yeah, all round, these are really excellent headphones that you can use for running if the fit works for you, and they cross over well into lifestyle use for sure. Now, the added bonus of a pretty accurate heart rate monitor, and you know, for some workouts, you might just be able to not use a watch at all if you don't want to, or if you are using an Apple Watch, you are going to get a little boost in the accuracy of the heart rate tracking, I'd say, by having the headphones there as well. So for me, I still probably have to look at buds with wings for more accurate results, wings or an ear hook on the run, and the best, I think, in-ear headphones that have this kind of lifestyle and workout appeal for me are the Bose QC Ultra earbuds. They are more expensive than the AirPods Pro 3, about 300 quid, but Bose recently seems to have quite a strong record of reducing its headphones quite substantially, so I'm hoping to see those drop a fair bit. And the sound on the Bose Bud is as good as the Apple ones, and certainly the ANC as well. You get good battery life, and they've got a wing there that I found worked really well. I've been able to use those headphones for like 20-mile runs without worrying about the fit coming loose or anything like that. So they're another top premium lifestyle / running headphone crossover you could look at, and the fit is better for me with the Bose headphones. There's also the Bose QC earbuds, which are a fair bit cheaper than the Ultra model. They have a nice lightweight fit that again sits in the ear really well. Again, really good sound and ANC. I think it's not far off the standard of the AirPods Pro 3. You can get those for quite a lot less in sales. Like Bose has reduced those to around £130 quite often, and I do think that's a really good price for what is an exceptional set of in-ear headphones with great sound and ANC and a pretty strong fit for running as well. And you're looking around the rest of the Apple and Beats range, like I think the AirPods Pro 2 might be a good value alternative. I had the same problems with fit on those buds as I do with the AirPods Pro 3. The heart rate monitor is useful, but might not be a massive upgrade for lots of people who might not use it. You are getting, I think, better ANC here. The sound is maybe slightly better as well, but sound on the AirPods Pro 2 is also really good, and they'll likely be in sales. The new Powerbeats Fit I've just started testing out do have an ear hook, so they're in-ear buds from Apple/Beats that have a more secure fit. It's still not a very comfortable fit, I would say, with the Powerbeats Fit. Their ear hook is stiffer and unnecessarily stiff still, even with the second gen, and I don't think the fit's incredibly comfortable, but it is certainly more secure on the run for me. Sound and ANC, though, is a bigger step down than I expect. Actually, when I was listening to the Powerbeats Fit, they really don't sound as good as the AirPods Pro 3 for me in terms of depth. They've got a bit of brashness almost to the sound, and they don't really have the clarity you get from the AirPods Pro 3, and the ANC is not nearly as good either, but you do get a more reliable fit. Same goes for the Powerbeats Pro 2, which obviously have a full ear hook. Their heart rate monitor didn't work that well for me during testing in terms of accuracy or usefulness, but you have got that very reliable fit. You've got an ear hook on, it's going to stay in place on the run, and that was obviously very important, the fit above everything. You get good battery life with them as well, and the sound's okay. Not as good as the AirPods Pro 3 though, I would say. And then there's the AirPods 4, which which is the non-in-ear style of AirPods, which I really love. I actually find those headphones just sit neatly in place for me on the run, and I can run with them and they don't come loose. You obviously don't get the passive noise cancellation of that in-ear fit, which improves the sound and ANC you get on these buds. But actually having that slightly open design is quite good for running in terms of awareness. They're just not quite as useful perhaps around the rest of your life as the AirPods Pro 3 with that in-ear fit blocking out lots more sound. So the sound and ANC isn't quite as good, but they're a fair bit cheaper. Pretty solid option if you want to stay within the Apple ecosystem. But yeah, the AirPods Pro 3 are really good. If the fit works for you, I think they're fantastic running and general use headphones. But you could look at the Bose QC Ultra earbuds for a more reliable fit, as they have wings and they also offer great sound, ANC, and all that stuff.
So there you have it. That has been our review of the Apple AirPods Pro 3. I hope you found it useful. We have got more headphone reviews coming up on the channel, so make sure you subscribe and ring the bell to hear about those when they land. Otherwise, thank you very much for stopping by, and until next time, happy running, people.